pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. I get to welcome you to a terrifically filled Tuesday, and I'm so excited. Actually, we got some big shots in the building, y'all. I'm really excited because Andie Lyon, the lead for the youth immunizations over at Seattle in Public Health Seattle and King County. I was almost there. She's here to tell us all about what our youth need to be vaccinated before they get back to school. Now, while they're already in school, we know this, but vaccinations are a huge part of this. So I'm so excited that we're going to be able to talk about the youth today and really specify all of that information out there for you to know. Because of course, Public Health Seattle and King County, they always have a great way for you to get vaccinated. And there's plenty of opportunity out there. So we're going to be talking all about it today. But of course, it's the top of the show. So you get to talk about something. That's right, you. You get to talk about this show right here with those that you feel could benefit from the daily dose of dopeness we work to give you here on the Day with Trae. And if you can't watch our TV show, I mean, it is highly produced and everything, but if you can't watch it, our audio is also highly produced. So you can always listen to us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and the Day with Trae. You'll find us on whatever platform is your favorite. Now, before I get into it with Andie, yesterday was a huge day for me and my family because my grandbaby, the youngest youth in our family right now, turned 4 months old. So as I think about how fast time is flying, it's so interesting when you have a newborn, a young baby, an infant in your midst, in your realm of life. I think it feels like time speeds up, right? Because as he's getting bigger, I'm already like, oh my gosh, his cheeks have filled out. He's starting to make expressions. He smiles when he sees me, and it's so warming to my heart. These are things that, of course, he wasn't doing in the beginning, but I was very diligent because I would speak to him every day while he was growing in his mother's belly. I would talk to him about who I was, about how excited I was to have him join us in this world. And I'll tell you what, I think now he's starting to recognize that voice even more. And it's beautiful because when I think about youth, we always think about how our families are growing or youth around us, especially if we're involved in education or mentoring programs or athletic programs for youth. There's so many different ways for us to bring our brilliance to the environments that youth are already in. And I'm always talking about being a part of the solution. And when I think about youth, there's solutions around us that we can pour into just by being there for young people. One thing that I was told recently was if I had someone who was checking in on me every day as a young person, things may have been different for me. If I knew that there was other people counting on me to show up as my best self, maybe I wouldn't have gotten into some of the things I got into in my past. And while some of those things are just lessons and you're going to learn them, at the end of the day, the beauty of being connected to young people is insurmountable in terms of the benefit that we get in community. So y'all know at the end of the show, I'm always asking you to find a way to be a part of the solution. But I'm going to tell you now, before I even talk to Andie, because when I think about youth, yes, we want them to be safe and healthy. But so much of that is also on us, the adults that are around them. How are we making sure that they are feeling loved? How are we talking to the young people in our family so they know they can come to us when they may be in a jam or when things get hard for them? Isolation is one of the things that is impacting and affecting youth so much right now. They saw a huge rise of it during COVID and the pandemic. And it's important for us to break down those barriers of isolation when we think about youth. And so one way I'm doing it, I'll share it with y'all. is I visit my grandbaby every chance I get. Right? Of course, my son and his girlfriend are doing an amazing job as parents, but I also want to pour into him. I don't want to leave it up to just them for him to know what a good example of an adult looks like. We got to showcase that now. And even with my 10-year-old who gets to see it all the time, I have intentional conversations with him about who he is, about what's going on at school, the kids he's encountering, the type of difficult situations that he's been involved in. You know, he dealt with some bullying tactics and all of that. And he's been able to have a level head about it because he knows that there are people he can come to. And that is so important, y'all. So I'll make sure I remind y'all some different ways that you can be a part of the solution at the end of the show. But up next, we got Andie Lyon in the building, the lead for the youth immunizations over there at Public Health Seattle and King County. We're going to be talking all about those youth vaccinations right after this short break. Stay tuned, y'all. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Seattle Opera presents the world premiere of Jubilee. Jubilee follows the historic Fisk Jubilee Singers' initial tours following the Civil War. While raising funds for the fledgling Fisk University, the group shared their music around the world, showcasing more than 40 African-American spirituals such as Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Deep River, and Wade in the Water. Jubilee is not to be missed. October 12th through 26th at McCaw Hall. Details at seattleopera.org.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
Welcome back, y'all, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Andie Lyon. Hi, Andie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those necessary things. I really am grateful for the connection we have with Public Health Seattle and King County because honestly, there's a lot going on at Public Health and people want to know. And so talk to us a bit about what your position does.
Sure. So really my role is to ensure that everyone across the county who is between 0 and 18 has really good access to the vaccines that are available to keep us healthy and safe. And in particular for the kids who are in school, because there are some specific requirements for school entry and for preschool daycare in Washington State. So we want to make sure that kids are able to attend school and be healthy while they're there. And we want to really eliminate the barriers that get in the way there.
So it feels like there's some peak moments throughout, you know, the year where a lot of parents are looking to make sure vaccinations are happening. I know every kid kind of gets on a cycle from when they're born and it kind of follows them. Tell us a little bit more about that because there's a lot that happens when it comes to youth immunizations.
Sure. So you're right that generally speaking, that immunization process is going to start really close to birth or within those first few months, which is why it's really a great idea for folks who can to get established with a regular medical provider when their baby is little or even before. And then they can just keep up to date with those vaccines. But we all know that life gets crazy and sometimes our best laid plans go right out the window. So there are some other good opportunities for us to get caught up. And back to school is one of those times because you've got some additional support helping remind you. So if for whatever reason your doctor moved away or you moved to a different place and now you're not in touch with that medical provider, you've got a great support in-school nurses who are going to be checking and making sure what vaccines might your kids need, both to attend school, but also just what's recommended for them. So back to school is a really great time, and any of those transitions, right? So going back to school, but also when our kids are ready to graduate from high school is a great time, when they're going off into their next adventure. Those are great opportunities to sort of check in and see where we are at with our regular preventative health.
Well, it's good to hear that too. And there's ways to make sure people are informed. Now, y'all are doing, obviously, coming here is a great way. I'm going to tell you, Andie, right now. But you have a lot of other avenues you have to, actualize and utilize to make sure families know where they can be vaccinated. I think because for some folks who don't have primary care, it's like, where do I go? How do I make this happen? Tell us more about that.
Sure. So we have a really great partnership right now in place with a local medical provider, Docere. They run a clinic called GoVax Kids, and they're providing community-wide vaccine clinics for all children between 0 and 18 to get those regular vaccines if they live in the South King County area, if they have ever experienced homelessness, if they've recently arrived, a refugee, asylee, recent immigrant, and don't have a medical provider. So any of those kids who are in need can show up at these clinics. We've got a list of them on our website. We'll make sure you have the information, but our Find a Clinic website is a great way to check that out. And then folks can just show up and get those vaccines, and they're free. We also have a great list of opportunities or locations where folks can get it if those don't work out for you. So a lot of the community health centers like CMAR and Health Point are great places to get caught up. And the benefit there is you can also get your other preventative health care. So vaccines are just one part of that. And we want to make sure folks have access to all of those things. So we're really excited to be partnering with GoVax Kids to make this available.
Wow. I mean, that's the kind of, intentionality to supply the need for those in need, right? Because there's so many different people that have all of these different pathways of their lives. So I really appreciate hearing this partnership with GoVax Kids. I mean, it's just great. And so people knowing that it exists is one thing, or it existing is one thing, and people knowing is another. So I appreciate hearing that. Now, there are some specific vaccines that kids need to get back in school, to be in school. Tell us about those specific ones.
Sure. So depends on the age and whether we're talking about preschool, daycare, or school. But in general, the vaccines that are going to be required for folks to go to school are the DTaP, which is diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, MMR, which is measles, mumps, and rubella, hepatitis B, varicella, which is chickenpox. Didn't have that one when I was a kid, so I'm super, super glad to hear that one's a requirement. And then meningococcal meningitis, which is mostly for those real little ones going into daycare. And then there's some that are just highly recommended, but they're not necessarily required for school. When I say required, I mean parents need to either show that their kiddo has gotten that vaccine, or if it's not medically possible for them to get it, they need to fill out some paperwork. So, and either way, medical providers can help you kind of figure those ins and outs.
Well, this is good to know. And my question is, in your role, right? I mean, we're talking about you as the lead for youth immunization. Does that mean you're out in community often? I mean, is a lot of this work kind of done kind of at the desk, like making sure you're making the connections happen? Is it a both and? Tell us a bit about what that looks like day in and day out.
Well, I don't get out into the community as much as I want to, but I have had some really great opportunities to go see our vaccination partners in action. And one of the things I have to tell you that I am consistently impressed with how kind, how efficient, how calm they are, and they see kids from all different backgrounds and experiences, from the tiny babies who have no idea what they're getting into, and they're going to cry, to those middle school boys who think they're real tough but actually are a little bit nervous about needles. And these providers can see all of those kids and make them feel safe and get them what they need. So I do some of that. I do get to go check it out and really see our work in action. And a lot of it is just matchmaking. So it's connecting those school nurses who are doing their best in their context with the medical providers, or making sure we can get resources to the right people. We've had a great opportunity recently to support understanding vaccine records from other countries, right? Because we've got a ton of new arrivals in the area, and they're showing up with these medical records in Portuguese, or from in French from the DRC, and the medical providers say, we want to make sure this kid is up to date, but we don't know what their medical record says. So some of it is really just connecting the dots between people who are doing great work in their own context. And so that's a real honor too, to get to introduce people to one another and say, what you've got and what you've got need to go together.
That is really cool, because people may not have known that about your role, right? And so that's why I was like, let me tap into that a little bit. But also, too, there's something to be said about the space in between, right? Some vaccines are every year, some vaccines are, every 5 years. And so sometimes it's hard for people to keep track of this. And tell us a little bit more about how, having that provider really helps to guide that process.
Yeah. Well, we certainly want to make it easy for folks to get vaccines wherever they are. And so sometimes that means a community clinic, but there are really great, like you said, benefits to having a regular medical provider. And one of those is you can have those ongoing conversations to talk about what your kid needs when, what are your concerns about what they need. So certainly we might be really familiar with the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. And folks might say, sure, I feel comfortable with that. But then they get a recommendation for an HPV vaccine, and that one might feel a little more foreign. Mm-hmm. So having that relationship with a provider gives you the opportunity to have some of those questions answered, and not just hear what the recommendation is, but understand why it's recommended. So why do kids need 3 or 4 of one shot, but another one they can just get once and be fine? Or why do we get an updated flu shot every year? Why is that one we have to keep going back? But once we've gotten a hepatitis B, we're set. So medical providers can really spend that quality time with you to explain what's going on. And that's something that you can get other places as well. And so we know that, there are plenty of opportunities if folks don't have that relationship, that we want to try to fill in the gaps where we can.
Well, you definitely have a lot of information on the website. So I want to give you time before you go to make sure that people know exactly where to get all of the resources and the information they need. Let them know.
Yeah. So you can absolutely check out tons of information, including where to get vaccines, those community clinics I mentioned. We also have partnerships with other organizations, so they'll post on there. And that's at kingcounty.gov /immunization/find a clinic. And that is the best opportunity, the best place to find all of that information. And of course, we're also on social media and have plenty of links if that's the way you get your information. I know it is for me.
Right on, Andie. Thanks so much for all the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Y'all, I'm going to be wrapping this up right after this short break. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hello, welcome to Elite Insights with Carlos Imani. We're looking to offer an in-depth look at event production industry through the lens of client experiences and joint successes. The podcast will emphasize guest interviews, focusing on clients discussing their fields and reflecting on their collaboration with Elite Collective. Again, you're with Elite Insights. Carlos Imani here. See you guys in a few.
Big Tobacco thinks they know everything. They think they know you, your community, the places you go, the way that you spend your time. They think they got you all figured out, down to a formula, a calculation based off of numbers of what they think they know. Show them they're wrong. Learn more at theythinktheyknowyou.org.
Here on Back to Vesa, it's always been important to me that we uplift stories from across the region, and that no matter where you live in the nation, you never have to miss a moment of the show as we continue to highlight the beauty, excellence, and resilience of our communities across the Pacific Northwest. Why? Because representation matters. So no matter where you live, be it the Central District or Centralia, Portland or Pullman, or anywhere across the country, I encourage you to join me on this Back to Vesa journey by downloading the free Fox Local app on your phone or smart TV as we continue to elevate the very best in our communities.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. What a great Tuesday episode. Shout out to Andie Lyon for joining me today and coming back to make sure that our audience and all of you out there are informed about these needed vaccines as all of the youth in your life return to school. You know, this is always a special time too, because we're really gearing into fall, right? And fall brings all of the different colors of leaves on the trees, and there's different smells in the air when we think about fall, especially up here in the Pacific Northwest. So now you can attribute, is my kid vaccinated? Do they have everything they need, to also being a part of your fall checklist. Thank y'all so much for watching. It doesn't matter what you're doing. When you're pouring in, we all benefit. So, being a part of the solution is necessary and key. And I get to continue to uplift and inspire you with more folks who are doing just that as I return tomorrow. And until then, at 11 a.m., y'all, peace.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.